Yeah. We really boxing. Who wanted the battle? Let's see.
Oh, we boxing? Yeah, we boxing. I need that belt like it ain't no other option. So we punching and weaving and blocking. Defeat ain't an option. Let them know. Shoot a video, put it on BVO. Let them know. Every time I punch, it's a heavy blow. BVO, bound to hit like bricks cause it was set in stone. Let them know. I ain't getting body, but I'ma hit this flow. Yeah, way more than a show. This is BVO. This how it's finna go. I'ma throw some jabs. Make them think my punch is weaker than I hook his ass. This the ring, not the kitchen, but I'ma cook his ass. Me and him, that's the pro versus the rookie class. All my life I had to fight, but I still love it. Me and BVO got moves that you can't steal from us. And these haters be throwing shots, but I don't feel nothing. I ain't gonna lie, they alright, but we a little rough for stepping.
Person to stop, move. Person to stop. Person to stop, move.
Yeah. We really boxing.
Yo, what's up? It's your boy BVO Boxing, aka the Kappa Regime of Boxing. Of course, I got my guy D3, the Puerto Rican Prince, and we got our special guest, man, Jacob Stitch Duran. How you doing, man?
What's up? Finally got you on, huh?
Oh yeah, man. You know when you grow up with your grandparents, man, you don't know how to use no technology.
Hey, man. I leave it to you guys.
So it's an honor to have you here, man. I was going to ask you the question that you probably get a million times a day, man. Who is Stitch Duran? Where are you from originally, man?
Yeah, where are you guys based out of?
I'm out of Cleveland. He's out of DC.
Okay, all right. So I grew up in the Central Valley of California, in a migrant camp. I was born and raised in a migrant camp. I was a farm worker. That's what I did until I joined the Air Force. I mean, it was where I grew up was the agricultural capital of the world, and my birth certificate for the address is CPC number 12, California Packing Company number 12. So in the old days, they used to have plantations. You guys work for free. Well, we worked for the guy that owned the crops and stayed under, in their camps. So that's where I grew up. But then I joined the Air Force and got stationed in Thailand and studied the martial arts there and got into boxing to improve my hands and had school of kickboxing. I opened that up with just a credit card, as crazy as I was, right? That's how I got to be where I'm at. I was a trainer before I was a cut man. But I had to learn to be a cut man as I progressed because I had some world-class kickboxers from all over the world. And so that's what got me here, man, just following my dreams, bro. So it's kind of nice because Sunday they're inducting me into the National Boxing Hall of Fame. And and they're also filming a documentary on my life based on a book I wrote called From the Fields to the Garden, because I grew up in the fields and my goal was to make it to Madison Square Garden. So that's our last day of filming. And so then Michael B. Jordan, and then they're helping us get it up to the top level for distribution. So I've been blessed, bro. I ain't no different than nobody. And when you look at success stories, I made it. I've been blessed.
So that means we're gonna see you crying at your Hall of Fame induction, huh?
Oh man, don't say that. Last week, I'm being invited to certain different things in life, right? So last Wednesday, my wife and I went to Palm Springs, California, and I was a guest speaker in a panel of some Hollywood people. And so I was still a little Chicano that grew up as a farm worker, hanging out with these big guys. And so, it's been a blessing. And I don't know if I cry, I think it'll be okay.
Yeah. Just don't cry too hard, man. My brother D3, he cried to drop the hat. So.
Oh, man. Don't even say it. I've been thinking about you, BVO. I said, no. Man. And he said, don't cry. And I won't.
But you know,
great. No, I was gonna say, so you got you started in MMA, or did you start in another form of combat sport?
Yeah, I studied. I was stationed in Thailand, 1974. You guys weren't even born yet, right? I was a young kid, but I saw my first Muay Thai fight, and there at the base for the GIs they had Taekwondo, Korean art. So I started with that, and then finally some of the Thai instructors came and started showing us the Muay Thai system, and so I started off in kickboxing, and then I got into boxing when I got out of the Air Force. I lived in Oakland, and I got into boxing there to improve my hands, and then I moved to the suburbs and opened up a school of kickboxing. It was called the ASK, American School of Kickboxing. So that's my background, and that's more of that's why my job is to teach as a martial artist. I'm a martial artist before I was a guy in boxing, but I still, I do them both. So yeah, that's why I always teach, because that's what we do in the martial arts, bro.
Yeah, so I'll ask you this, man. We know about how you've been so like almost on another level, man. I'm a big fan of yours. Excuse me, kind of stumbling on my words. I'm a big fan of yours, man. It's kind of crazy to see you, because I remember you used to do for the Klitschko's, and I used to see you all the time as a kid. Like, oh man, I think it was Vitaly or was it Vladimir? One of them. I said, oh, he's about to be done, and I seen how you like did a miracle, man. So I was like, this guy.
Yeah.
They ever call you the miracle man for how you saved a lot of guys? Because I know Andre Ward always talks about how you saved him as well.
Yeah, no, hey, that's the blessing, and to say, I sit back and I say, shit, I did that. I remember when I was working at the UFC, Forrest Griffin was fighting Shogun, and he was the first Pride fighter fighting a UFC fighter, and that cut that Tim Tszyu got where he bled like a pig. Well, it's that big vein we have it coming down, right? Well, he got cut right there. Forrest got cut right there, and that you bleed like a pig. So I went in there and I applied everything that I had, and I took all the medications I had, the adrenaline and the Avitine, and I sit back and I'm sitting with Dana's dad and Don House, the other cut man. I said, man, it's not bleeding. It's not bleeding, And at the end of the fight, he ended up winning and sent me a nice gift certificate, right? So yeah, it blows my mind. I've been blessed, and yeah, I mean, what can I say?
Yeah, so you growing up you were probably a teenager in the 70s. So what was it like being in California in the 70s, man? What was that like? I know it was a whole different time compared to now. What was that like?
Yeah, well, I mean, I lived in Oakland, the Bay Area, and when I got out in 1976, and it was funny because I grew up in a small town, like 1,500 people. Once I left a migrant camp, 3 miles away was my little town, Planada. That's my pride and joy, right? But I flunked my physical for the Navy. My brother was in the Navy, so I was going to go in the Navy, and I flunked my physical because I jacked my knee up playing baseball. And the doctor says, nah, you got to get surgery. It kind of bummed me out. Well, a Marine recruiter is the one that got me, and he wanted me to get in the Air Force. And I said, man, I want to go to Vietnam, bro. I don't mind serving my country, but I want to come back, right? But he sent me to Oakland. And now you keep in mind, I'm a young Mexican kid that's been down as a farm worker, and he sends me to Oakland, and about 2 o'clock in the morning, I get there, and this guy comes up to me, and I'm naive, bro. He comes up and says, hey, man, listen, man, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm with Huey Newton, and I got to get out of town. That's when Huey Newton with the Black Panthers were big, right? Yeah, Bobby Seale. I reach in my pocket, I give him $5, and he takes off. I said, that was probably the stupidest thing I ever did in my life. So anyway, so that was my introduction to the big city life.
So were you on the east side or were you on the west side of Oakland?
The east side.
Oh, okay.
1446 28th Avenue. And King's Gym was on 23rd Avenue, so yeah, east side Oakland.
So let me. I know. We talked the last time we was on Thomas and Socrates show. We was talking about if a fighter get cut and it hits that blood vessel in their head, it's hard to stop that, or it's actually no way to stop it. That Tim Tszyu and Fandora fight, did you see them do anything wrong in that where they could have slowed the blood down?
No, they did everything wrong. Everything. And it's just not the cut man.
Yeah.
It was a whole team, and you were talking about Vladimir Klitschko, right?
Yes, sir.
But Vladimir, same thing happened to him. It's my first fight that I worked with Vladimir. First fight ever. I did the movie Ocean's 11 with him when he fought Lennox Lewis when they robbed the casino, right? But he gets that cut that Forrest Griffith got, same vein. He gets that cut and it bleeds like a pig, right? So at that point, and here's where the corner screwed up for Tim Tszyu. I always look at the rounds. Who's winning the round, what the score is. Everything's numbers and percentages, right? So I'm looking at this, and Vladimir had just come back from losing his world title to Lehman Brewster. And Emmanuel Stewart's one said, Vladimir wants you to be his cut man. So I'm working on him, and I knew the first 3 rounds he won. On the 4th round, he gets dropped. And okay, he didn't get hurt. So it's still a 3-2 round. Well, on the 5th round, he gets that headbutt, and he pops that vein, and it bleeds like, it starts bleeding. Well, at that time, when he sat down, I told Vladimir Vitali, because Emmanuel's on one side and Vitali's on the other, I said, look, you got a back cut, you're winning the fight, I'm going to have the doctor stop the fight. So when the doctor came, and this is what they should have done, I opened the cut up for them. The doctor said, what do you think? And because I've worked with her many times in the UFC, boxing, I said, yeah. I opened it up, and it's pretty bad. She stopped the fight, went to the scorecards, he ended up winning the fight, and became world champion for 8 years. Tim Tszyu, unfortunately, they didn't do none of that, and he ended up losing his world title. So, and I start mentioning, and I mentioned it before with Socrates and them, is that none of us trainers and cutmen have to be certified to be called pros. None of us, so it's not fair to the fighters.
So, I know you used to do some training, man. What made you want to be a cut man and not a trainer? Because a cut man is such a thankless job. You do so much, but it's a very thankless job.
Man, you know what? I think you're the first one ever asked that. I've done a shitload of interviews, first one, but I kind of floated to the top. I was a very good trainer. I was A+ trainer. And when I got to Vegas, and I've been here I came here to follow my dreams. I've been here 29 years. I didn't come to be a trainer because I thought all the great trainers in the world were in Vegas. It's the boxing capital of the world. So I came to be a cut man. But as I'm in the gyms, I'm looking at these guys do pads, work pads, and this and that. And I said, man, I could do that. I could do that. And I could do that. And first guy I started working with was Mike McCallum, the body snatcher. So I started doing pads because I was very good at doing pads. But I had an 8-to-5 job with RJ Reynolds back recovery. So it was times when Eddie Mustafa Muhammad said, my phone would ring, I'd run out of the gym and Jacob here. And so I'd go in there, work, do pads and go. But I did pads for Johnny Tapia, Raul Marquez, Mike Tyson. Guys used to call me to do pads for them. But I never had the time to be a full-time coach. But I love being a cut man. And, that was my goal, was to be here and to be a cut man. So.
Yeah, and the reason I asked you that, man, because, it's not always easy to break into something, especially when you don't know anybody, man, and you're starting off fresh. And I wanted to ask you, man, so how did you know that cut man was even an opportunity? Because let's just be honest, a lot of us black and brown people, we don't know how to get into nothing, man. We just have a dream. How did you know how to make that dream reality better yet?
Just keep going forward, man. And that's a good point. And when I did this conference last week, I led there was a lot of the high school kids going into the next phases, right? A lot of young entrepreneurs and all that. I said, we're all going to get hit and I won't take that shot. You just got to get up and keep going, right? And one of the shots that happened to me is I had my school of kickboxing and I was learning to be a cut man. And at that time, it was boxing only. And this is in Richmond, California. Bone Crusher Smith fought Marvis Frazier, the son of Marvis, Joe Frazier. So I went to the fights as a fan, and this guy did a good job. And
you was in Richmond? That's dangerous, man.
Man, I lived in Oakland. What are you talking about dangerous? Shit, I go to picnics in Richmond. What are you talking about? Anyway, hey, I was a light-skinned brother, man, so I had no problem. So anyway, I asked this one guy, I said, hey, man, I'm trying to learn to be a cut man. Can you tell me what you did? He said, oh, fuck you. He goes, I'm taking this to my grade. And you got to learn like me. He walked away. So I said, I'm never going to be like him, So, yeah, no, Richmond, it had its days, but I lived in East Oakland, too,
And you a brave man. I didn't know you was in Richmond, man. When you say Richmond, Now you know there's nothing but brothers there, man. It can get bad in Richmond.
Yeah. No, I understand. Yeah.
So I'm gonna ask you this, man. Who was your favorite martial artist or favorite fighter, man? Because were you a big fan of Bruce Lee? Because I know right before you were there, I know Bruce Lee spent a lot of time in the Bay Area. Was he still a legend in the 70s when you got there?
Yeah, 100%. That's when I went to the martial arts, was because it was during the Bruce Lee era.
Yeah.
Right. But as I work with fighters, Dennis Alexio was the fighter that I worked with. Was until I met MMA guys, was the best athlete I ever met in my life. He was a world champion in light heavyweight, and cruiserweight, and but in the movie Kickboxer with Van Damme, he was the brother in the wheelchair, and he was a real kickboxer. So I worked with him, Don the Dragon Wilson, Benny the Jet Urquidez. I was there during that era. Rick Rufus, all these guys. So that was my prime time.
Yeah, my aunt lives in East Oakland. She used to we used to go to this gym. It's not there anymore. Now everything's a parking lot in Oakland. So, but back then, you used to meet the old timers who were working out there with Bruce Lee and said he was like superhuman. So I was just wondering, you growing up as a kid, I'm sure he was just like on the Green Hornet. I'm sure you watched the Green Hornet and all that stuff back then.
It was funny because just a couple of weeks ago, I'm going through the channels and I see Enter the Dragon. Yeah. And I'm looking at it now, and what I know, it's a classic. But as I look at it now, as how they do films now and how they did films then, and it needed a lot of work. It was a typical Chinese movie, right? But it was Enter the Dragon. So I never had a chance to meet Bruce Lee. That was always one of the things on my plan, because he was always in and out. Because he, for the most part, he would train in Oakland. And missed out on that.
So I ask you this, man: was being married one of the best things for you as far as having stability at home, doing so much traveling?
Yeah, good point, man. And my whole family, but my wife especially, they make sacrifices for me because, bro, I miss weddings, and not weddings. I miss birthdays and graduations and birth of a baby, and this for this, right? And they supported me 150%. This Hall of Fame thing really is a tribute to them, and I will make that mention that it could never would have been done without that. Keep in mind, my wife, when we moved to Oakland, I put in for a job transfer I worked for R.J. Reynolds Tobacco Company that made Winston, Salem's, Camels. So you're talking about Oakland and Richmond. I worked the mom and pop stores around that area. So I know what it was like, right? And so I made the move to Vegas, and I took a secondary position with my company. They gave me a job transfer, and it was like a $25,000 a year cut in pay. So I went there with my dreams, and she followed me, and now she don't work, so she's doing okay. Hell, UPS, Federal Express, Post Office, they all know her by name. Hey, Charlotte, how you doing again?
So do you ever see yourself retiring, man?
From what? It's not even a job. That's what I tell people. How can you complain about what I do, bro? My hardest thing in what I do is traveling. But that's a piece of cake. Is that when you pick tomatoes and peaches and cotton and grapes and walnuts and figs and almonds, when you did all that, traveling and staying in hotels and eating restaurant food, if that's the worst that could happen, I'm doing okay. But now, man, who gets to work with all these great fighters, one-on-one? So that's
your wife travel with you a lot now?
She does sometimes, depending on where it's at. Okay. we were in New York we had back-to-back fights with Top Rank. We were up there for 10 days. She's been to France with me, and she goes, now it's we're both older and retired, and I'm not retired. Just going to say that. As soon as you started, man.
Do she like boxing?
Yeah, but you know what? Yeah, I mean she does. But I was talking to one of my friends the other day. She quit going to the fights a long time ago. Every once in a while she'll go, because when I was with the UFC, everybody's an armchair quarterback where she's sitting at. Hey, do this and do that, and she knows the game. My whole kids know the game, right? And that would just kind of rub her the wrong way. And she goes, I'm not going, you know. So, but you know, but now like when I do the fights with like Top Rank or something like that, yeah, you know, she'll go with the team we're going with. So, good question.
Hey, if you don't mind, Stitch, man, I wanted to bring in my guy CDK, man. He's a huge fan of yours, man.
Yeah, I don't
He
mind.
wanted to say hey, he wanted to say hey to you, man.
Yeah, you know, I ain't that kind of guy, man. You know,
Man, how y'all doing? How you doing, Free? I'm really in the middle of something, so I just wanted to ask you a question. Really, one question, and I'm gonna get out of here. Let y'all guys
know you want, man.
Man, all right. I was wondering about
talk, bro.
I was, you know, the Tim Zoo fight. You know, I know y'all when you dealing with cuts or whatever, you got to use the swab, and I think it's more or less like I can't pronounce that word good. It's how you pronounce it or whatever y'all use. But is there right? But is there anything y'all could have done? I mean, they could have done differently because I heard this corner went prepared, and I'm trying to figure out what wasn't there or what could they have done differently.
They wouldn't have stopped the bleeding, but they should have stopped the fight. No, you know, and let it go to the. It would have been a no contest, and then they would have did a rematch. Zoo would have kept his title. Then he could prepare for a guy that's 6'6" instead of like Keith Thurman that's 5'11", 5'12". You know,
right.
That would have been the thing to have done. But that type of cut right there, you're not going to stop it because it's bigger than the veins that are here. Here you got smaller veins. That's why when you see me work on a cut, first thing I'll do is I'll squeeze it and I'll get all the little blood out of the little veins. Then I'll put the adrenaline in, like you're talking about. That's the mixture of the swab. That's a vasoconstrictor. So it absorbs into the veins and it'll close them up. That's the theory. Well, this one right here since it has too much blood flowing out, the medication wouldn't have a chance to absorb into the veins. And then not only that, but this vein is a little thicker than the ones down here. So
right.
Economically, and like say percentages and numbers, that would have been the best thing to do is stop it. The only thing to do.
Definitely, I agree with that. I was wondering about even with the Vaseline. Like I know the Vaseline kind of constricts the cuts or whatever. It helps out too. And what about the ice packs and all that? It tries to kind of freeze it or whatever. But like you said, none of that would have worked. It was a bad cut.
Yeah, and it's that kind of cut. You should know Badu Jack. When Badu Jack fought, he ended up with that same cut and the same scenario. They let it go the distance because and I started with Badu Jack after that fight. And what was hard with him is him and the other guy were fighting for the #1 position for a world title. So it was a big fight. Well, they let that fight continue, and poor guy Badu's going like this, and he's just getting the blood out of his eyes. And it goes to the scorecards, and he loses the fight, and he lost his opportunity to become a world champ.
Right, definitely.
Knowing the game, you know. So good question.
Thank you.
Do we need those cuts, man? Have you ever seen one of them cuts that just got squeamish? Oh my God. You never seen one of those?
Jay Haran was fighting Jonathan Goulet in MMA fight here in Las Vegas, and that same cut, he took a knee, and the cut was maybe about this big, but it's nice that vein. Both fighters had blood from the top of their head to the bottom of their feet.
Oh my God!
It made me nauseated, and so of course they stopped the fight, but Jay Haran is very proud of that moment. That ring, the mat is in Randy Couture's gym here in Las Vegas. That's the bloodiest fight I ever worked. So I'm gonna ask you this, man.
Who was your favorite fighter? Who was your favorite fighter now? Or who was your favorite fighter growing up? Did you have one?
Yeah, well, growing up, it was always Roberto Duran, Alexis Arguello. But here, where I work with so many, I can't say I like you better than I do D Free. I can't do that. I can't do too many guys, man. I love them all. And that's a great thing about my job is that I get that one-on-one relationship with all these guys. Because and I was thinking about it today as Marco Antonio Barrera to be a former world champ from Guadalajara. Well, he has a podcast, and I was on it. I thought it was his son, but it turned out to be him. But he asked me a question that's never been asked, like you. He says, "Has there ever been a fighter to disrespect you?" And I thought about it, and I said, "No, it really hasn't, because my job is a little bit different than yours. My job is to come in to take care of you. So why would you want to mess with me if I'm here to take care of you? So that was a good question. Never been asked.
Right. I know you and Klitschko was real close. I seen somewhere you said he was in the corner. You was in the corner or something, and he told you to call. You could call him son.
Yeah,
So,
hey man, I'll tell you this story. So there's when Vladimir Klitschko fought Anthony Joshua, Vladimir's last fight, and I've been with him for 8 years. So I didn't see him till the weigh-in, him and Vitaly, and I work with both him and Vitaly. So I see him in the dressing room Friday before the fight, and we're talking, and finally, going through everything about the fight and how you doing and any problems, everything. Finally, I put my hand on his shoulder, and I say, "Don't worry about nothing tomorrow. I'm gonna take care of you like you're my son." And I leave because I know the night before they can't sleep, and you're a good point. So right before Michael Buffer does the announcements, I'm putting the final Vaseline on him, and shit, we're this far apart. Between him and I and millions of people watching, he says, "You could call me son." Bro, that kind of gave me chills. It gives me chills every time I tell it. And so the last time I saw Vladimir was like 3 months later in Germany. And I asked him, I said, "Vladimir, that one moment, why?" He said, "Stitch," he goes, "there are very few people I trust in my life. You were one of them." And it's the last time I talked to him. Actually, I talked to him about 3 weeks ago. He was in Washington, D.C., because, him and Vitaly's the mayor of Kiev. And, they're fighting Russia. And Vladimir is the face of the country. So he was here in Washington, D.C. 3 weeks ago. Didn't even tell you, D. Free. And I guess trying to get money for the fight against Russia, where they just got the money. And but let me, when I was doing the Creed movie, Michael B. Jordan asked me, because he always asked me for advice and all that, who should give away the WBC belt. And I explained Jose Suleiman and his son and all that. Anyway, when Earl Spence fought Ugas, I see Maurice Suleiman, and I tell him the story. So let's take a picture and send it to the brothers. I'm going to let you listen to what Vladimir sent me back. Hopefully you guys can listen. Let me know if you can hear it. All right, so this is going to be it right here.
My two favorite men, especially Stitch, with whom I spent so much time talking, and he actually saved my career on a lot of different stages. If Stitch wouldn't be in my corner, I would not make the record of 12 years being a champion. So that's so great to see you both, and Stitch is the man.
Nice, huh?
Man, that's a tearjerker, man. That's a tearjerker, man.
Oh, yeah, hey, man, it brought tears to me, when I'm listening to it. I said, wow, man, because, the thing about it, they're right in the middle of a war. This was when they were getting bombed on a regular basis, right?
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, wow, for that moment, you're wiping your eyes, huh?
Yeah, that's tearjerker, man.
Hey, no, listen, man, it choked my ass up, too, every time I listen to it. I think about it, right? But yeah, he sent that out, and I took him out of that moment and just put him into a moment that he loved, which is boxing. And in this message that he sent me 3 weeks ago, Stitch, I love you, and yeah, we're family, man. So
yeah, it's beautiful right there, man. I definitely had to ask you about that because I seen it a while back, and I was like, man, if I ever get to talk to him, I want to ask him how that made him feel.
And man, and I think I got so many stories like this with so many fighters. It blows my mind,
So when you were working with Andre Ward, did you realize did you kind of realize how good he really was, like while you had him, or you can't be a fan of him while you're working with him? How does that work?
It's a good question, man. Yeah, every time, and I worked all of Andre's fights except 2 of them because I was already booked with the UFC, and I had to get visas because we were fighting out of the country. And but as an amateur, he always told me, Stitch, because we all trained at King's Gym, same gym. When I turned pro, I want you to be my cut man. And when I turned pro, I was his cut man. But every time I saw him fight, I would think, this guy's going to get beat. This guy's going to get beat. But he was the most perfect fighter without showing a lot of drama. Right? He was very, very basic in what he did, but everything he did right to the T. It blew me away. I mean, I'm waiting for him to get knocked down or beat up or cut. And he ain't doing it, man. So good guy, man. Also blessed to have worked with Andre in all his fights. Super
Yeah, he was special. You had opportunity to be around and for a long time in the fight business. So I gotta ask you this because Andre Ward is one of my favorite fighters, but so is Roy Jones. At 168, how did that fight play out in your mind?
Ooh. Don't ask me that question. I can't answer it. No, that's big. Wow, that's a no. Don't ask me that. You know, the thing with Roy Jones,
Man.
I never saw him lose a round. Right.
Right.
The thing with Andre, he would lose rounds, but he would win a fight. And,
Yeah.
But I remember Andre fought Edison Miranda, and Miranda was going a little low below the belt. Andre got right back on him.
Yeah.
You know, and it got dirty like him. You know, so and then after that he would pray.
So let me ask you this: one of my favorite shows. You don't get a lot of credit, but what was it like working with Virgil Hunter? Because you know you working with Andre. What was it like working with Virgil Hunter?
Yeah, Virgil was very, just right to the point. And the thing with when you give instructions, you give very proper instructions, very limited vocabulary, but you get to the point. And Virgil was very good at that. He was good at looking at the little things that made a big difference. Like Andre. Andre had a lot of little things that made a big difference, and and so a lot of what Andre did, he got from Virgil. A lot of what Virgil did, he got from Andre because they were together for so many years.
Have you ever been in a situation where it was a bad cut and you feel like the fighter that you was with, the fight should be stopped? Or have you ever seen that, but they wanted to keep, the corner wanted to keep the fight going?
Well, that and just you're talking about DC, Andre Duran when he fought Jose Esquirigi. This was, I think, the second fight, and if you remember when Andre's uncle went and cracked the other guy, right? And this is in DC, I think. So anyway, in this type of fight, and you're talking about Virgil Hunter, and it was Virgil Hunter and Andre's grandfather working the corner with me. Well, Andre is taking the kind of shots that I consider will give you long-term damage.
Yeah.
Long-term damage, the dementia pugilistica, the punch drunk syndrome, the slurred speech. And he was receiving those kind of shots. And I'm looking at the doctors and they're talking amongst themselves. I don't know what they're talking about, but it was a great opportunity for me when I started working with Andre. I said, look, the doctors are thinking of stopping the fight. Do you want to continue? And very slowly he goes like this. Just enough for me to see, no. I said, no, fight's done. And Virgil didn't know, well, no, one more round. I said, nope. As long as he said no, he's done. And nobody understood that, right? Well, the next day, he called me. Him and his wife called me about 8 in the morning. They said, look, man, I want to thank you because I had nothing with me. And I just saw a video yesterday. I responded. I haven't seen him in a long time. Very well spoken. I said, man, you could be a broadcaster. So, but I didn't want to, he didn't need that kind of damage. And deep inside, they're going to fight, to the death. And like I said, my job was to take care of them. And that was a situation where, I did a good job on it.
I got to ask you this, man. I know you probably like me, a big fan of Ryan Garcia. What did you think about the performance, man? The kid looked like De La Hoya out there. What did you think about that?
I didn't see the fight.
You didn't see the fight?
I know Ryan, and I know I worked a couple fights with Devin, but I'm not real good with a lot of bullshit. A lot of the hype bigger than the fight type of thing, and that's what it was. Yeah. Ryan Garcia it was an overkill for me, and I just kind of lost it. I do so many fights anyway. I don't mind looking at the highlights, and then comments that people made, and So, but I mean, wow, he hurt Devin Haney. I looked at Devin Haney's body language, especially in the first one where he was hurt. He did very well, but and everything he did, I did an interview before. I said his marketing strategy sucked, but it was worth $1 million. Everything that he did was right, because it's a social media type of event, and those are the ones that people are still talking about it. He became a hero. They thought he was a drunk and this and that. The team would not let him do that, and that's the thing about. I just look at the bare facts of the logic, and he fooled everybody, and made some money.
Yeah, he did.
So I'll ask you this, man. I think it's funny, and people bring about Ali all the time. I don't know if people realize that he pulled a Muhammad Ali. He played crazy and fooled everybody, just like Muhammad did when he would drive. And I remember they say he would drive on a tour bus and scream out the window, "You big ugly bear, come out, you big ugly bear!" And it's like we just seen that in 2024. It's amazing, man.
Well, he took everybody to school with marketing. Like I say, it was horrible. You know, as you look at as a guy that, you know, deep into the game, it was horrible, but it was so horrible that he was successful. And you know, and when it comes to marketing 101, I could give you 3 guys that are at the best. It was Floyd, Conor McGregor, and now Ryan Garcia. He fooled everybody.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, man. I wouldn't be myself. I got 2 more questions to ask you. What do you think about Teofimo Lopez?
I like him. I like him.
Yeah, that's D-Free's favorite fighter, so that's what I wanted to ask about it.
What's that?
D-Free loves Teofimo, so I wanted to ask you what you thought about it.
Yeah. No. Well, you know, I don't look at guys boxing skill wise. I look at guys on how they are as per people.
Right.
Every time I've seen him, him and his dad have always been respectful of me, and that's the way I look at it, man. I don't get into all the.
That's what I tell CDK, man.
Yeah.
No, that's what I be telling you. I'm like you, Stitch. I'm old school. I look at more than the fighter. I look at the personality and how they treat others and all that stuff. I'm big on that.
100%, man. Yeah, because you know, because everybody can fight, right?
Right.
But you know, I saw a video of Ryan when he was doing pads with his guy and showing his speed. Bro, I couldn't even follow that, and I used to do pads. So he's extremely fast. And because he don't show body movement, he'll just boom, boom, you know, boom, and you don't, you know, you can't read him.
So you telling me you changed your name from Speed Duran to Stitch after that?
Yeah. And I ain't staying with that guy, man. He's too fast. You know?
He's extremely fast, man.
Yeah.
And that
I
was.
want to ask one more question. I'm gone. I got to get out of here. I think did you take part in the Earl Spence and Terrence Crawford fight?
Did I take part of it?
Yeah, were you involved in that fight?
Well, I did one of the earlier fights, but let me tell you about that fight. Is I have second row seats, Floyd Sr. and some other high-end people. We did the red carpet, and I'm sitting and shit. I'm like this, man. So I tell them, "Excuse me, man." I walk out. Shit, I went to the dressing room and watched the fights in the dressing room. You know, yeah. I've been so many fights, man. That it's just, you know, it's a lot. They're all fun, but there's, yeah. I'd rather sit like Tim Tszyu. I saw that fight in the dressing room also, because now I can see the actual work, you know, and I can always fraternize with people and all that. So.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. CK.
The rest of it was, do you think after watching it, the Earl Spence would be able to come back and be the same fighter? What did you see? I mean, you seen it like we did, but what do you think went wrong for him?
Well, same with Devin Haney. He got hurt early, you know, and I saw that he was hurt early, and that's why body language is everything. And should they have maybe stopped that fight at that point, you know, then that probably wouldn't have been a bad decision, right? But yeah, you know, it's tough. You know, these guys are warriors. You guys are gladiators. So you got to protect them, you know, with a lot of common sense, and that would have maybe been one time, because at that point, my man Crawford already had his number, and he
did. Yeah, he beat him to death. He beat him to death.
It's only going to get worse. And not to say that Earl Spence is a bad fighter, that he had this wreck and this and that, but styles make fights, man. And like I said, you get cracked early, it's gonna change the whole concept of the game. You know, so you got to understand those aspects. That's why I say I don't give predictions, because I don't know and you don't know. You know, and I just make a fool out of myself. But if you ask me the probability of cuts and bruising based on their style of fighting, then I can answer that a lot better.
Well, I'm glad you made mention that. First and foremost, shout out and thank you for coming to the channel and enlightening us into the perspective of the boxing ring and what goes on, what entails, and the people that play a huge factor in that. But I wanted to know, because you segue to that Tim Tszyu fight with Fundor. You said about protecting the fighters and doing everything that's necessary. In that fight, was there anything that would have been possible to stop the bleeding that occurred in that fight?
No,
No.
not with that type of that vein that was popped. It was too big of a vein, and the medications that we explained earlier, medications we use with a swab, it's adrenaline chloride 1000. It's a vasoconstrictor. So once you put it on the vein, it constricts it, and it'll plug it up. It's like getting a water hose and bending it. But in that situation, the blood was flowing too much for the adrenaline to absorb into the tissue of the vein, and the vein is a little thicker than the ones down here. And maybe 3-4 rounds down the road, but maybe you could have plugged. It's like putting your finger in a dike. Still gonna be right.
You're right.
And that's a best case scenario.
Yeah, and then on the process, create more pressure so that it pushes it out more. Now, given that, you said protect the fighter. Should the corner have advised them, like, nah, there's nothing to be done, we need to stop this fight?
100%. And
Oh,
I've
wow.
done 50 interviews like this. I give them the same answer. Yeah, that's the corner failed them, and but that's, like I explained earlier, Thomas, is none of us coaches or cutmen have to be certified to be called pros. You just pick up a towel and work the corner, and they don't know the health and safety of fighters. I've been doing this for 30-something years, and I've seen broken bones, I've seen death in the ring, I've seen it all, cuts, major cuts, I've seen it all. Concussions, and so I understand, and I've talked to a lot of doctors as I go, and I've learned not through actual experience, but also on the medical side of what's happening. So I'm always got ears open.
So I gotta ask you this, man. What is the best restaurant in Vegas, man? What's your favorite restaurant? What's your favorite restaurant in Vegas?
Man, I don't know. I tell you, homemade food is best.
Hometown Cafe, yeah.
I got restaurant food up to here, bro.
Yeah, up there.
Oh God, yeah. It gets old after a while, Give me some good homemade food, and I'm very simple, and I just want simple things when I'm here.
But I just want to go ahead, Tom.
No, go ahead. I just said I agree. I agree.
I just want to say, man, thank you so much. I appreciate you, man, coming on the channel, man. We don't get to talk to a goat that much, man. So appreciate you taking time out your busy schedule, man, to talk to us, man.
No, this is my rest of relaxation. And Thomas, before I leave, since you brought up some good points, and let me finish up by this way: is education. That's my whole. As I leave this world, is that I made it a lot safer. So people always ask me to do seminars and to teach and all that, and I love doing them. The last one I did was in Mexico City with like 120 people, but I travel so much that I can't. So anyway, just last week I put out some videos called "Giving the Fighter One More Round." So I show you how to wrap hands for boxing and MMA, show you how to work on the swellings, show you how to work on the cuts, what the medications do, everything we talked about, right? The tools you use for your. So that's available at stitchduran.com, and it's not so much for making the money and all that. It's for teaching, giving people because I get asked all the time. People want to be cut, and I say, spend hours and days and weeks and months in the gym. You got to give back before you get it, and a lot of it, it's going to have to come out of your own income. Buy your own gauze, buy your own tape, learn how to wrap hands at your own expense. It's a timely process. But education, man, that's what I bring to the table, and it's what I want to be known as.
That's go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, man, that's absolutely wonderful. I want to applaud you on that, man, because the thing is, each one teach one, and when you have people that you can help in the game, it helps the fighters along the way, and it makes the fighter, the sport somewhat more safer. I want to ask you a 3-part question before you go.
No,
I don't know if it's already.
Don't worry.
Okay.
Yeah. I definitely don't want to take too much of your time, but I wanted to ask a 3-part question. And the first part is, how does it feel to be labeled a legend in a sport and still work the sport?
It's embarrassing. To be honest with you, it's a little embarrassing when I got invited to be as a member of the Hall of Fame. I didn't say nothing for about 2 weeks, and Bernardo Osuna, that commentates for ESPN, he's getting inducted also, and he spilled the beans, right? But yeah, it's it's appreciated, but it's it's a little humbling, just
big
I
time.
never thought I would be in this position, so yeah, it's an honor.
It is an honor, and it's well deserved. I mean, you are a giant amongst your craft, and I mean, there's only few people who ever worked the corner effectively as you have done. And I mean, that's honor and that's prestige and well worthy of it too. I also wanted to know, like, given your myriad of experience within ring, like, what are the things that like are missing in today's game with the fighters, not game, but sport, with the fighters that was prevalent back in the day as far as like craft in the ring?
Well, I don't know about craft in the ring. The game changes style-wise slowly but surely. In baseball, you're still pitching the same pitches. You're still swinging the same way, right? So everybody's is different. But what hasn't gone up, and that's the thing that I'm working on also, is the health and safety of the fighters. How come there's no pension plans? How come there's no insurance?
To that.
How come all of that is not prevalent right now? So as we go forward, I'll tell you guys, as a matter of fact, when we get off, send me your email, BVO. About 25 years ago, I put a documentary together called Boxer's Nightmare, and it deals with all the shit that fighters go through. And I was nobody at that time, and I did it with a young kid, John Barnhouse, that just graduated from the American Film Institute. So we talked about all the issues that are hurting boxing with all these people. Well, we never did nothing. When John passed away about a year ago, I hadn't seen this film in over 20 years. And I looked at it, and everybody I have here are all Hall of Famers. I got Mike Tyson the week before he got his tattoo. I got Eddie Mustafa Muhammad. I got Mills Lane, Emmanuel Stewart, Chuck Bodak, Joe Cortez, Richard Steele. I got all these guys. Joe Lewis's daughter that we talk about, Fernando Vargas. We talk about all the things that are hurting boxing then, and nothing's ever been done. So I looked at this film 6 months ago, and I looked at it, and I said, shit, nothing's ever been done. But now what was happening then for boxing is now happening in MMA with unfair practices, with grants or not grants, with insurance policies, pension plans. None of that is happening. So what I want to do is I want to reshoot some current interviews and get some new people on board and find out how come if these guys had answers, Emmanuel Stewart and all these guys had answers, why isn't anybody doing it? So Mike Tyson says, he goes, guys like me, Holyfield, Lennox Lewis, Oscar De La Hoya, when we fight, get a little bit of our money, let's give it to these guys. We don't need it. We're taken care of, right? Very simple solution. Mark Ratner, that was the executive for the commission here in Las Vegas, says the money comes from the pay-per-views. So very simply, if let's say every pay-per-view fight, the promoter charges $1 extra. It says $1 will go towards the Retired Boxers Foundation, whatever the situation is. People would love on it. They jump it. So those situations are fairly simple to do, but nobody's ever done them until now. So we're going to change that. But I'll leave you with this. This is Joyce Barrow, Joe Lewis's daughter. She kind of closed the documentary. Let me see if I can find it with this. But yeah, send me your email. Take a look at it. Send it to all of these guys. Let's have a chat and let's talk about it next time we talk. So this is Joe Lewis's daughter. I don't know. Hopefully you could hear it. And,
I love Joe Lewis too, man. That's another one that'll make your eyes.
Here's a beautiful young lady, man. Joyce Barrow. Where's she at? Right there.
Right.
So, and still, I actually got black hair, but here's what she said. Hopefully, you can hear it.
You build a business, any other business, you build it to last. You put health insurance, you put pension plans together. Every other major sport has these things. Why not boxing? Why not boxing?
That's how the film ends. Pretty badass.
That's as much money as they've made off of these boxers. Why not boxing?
It's horrible. It's horrible. Every major league, and Fernando Vargas's agent will tell you every major league has a, you know, and there's ways to go and do it. It's you can't get a union because they're all independent contractors, but you get an association.
Exactly.
You know, it's all in the wording. But if you take care of these guys, and now I'm talking to this doctor today that has a app where now whenever you fight, the doctor will ask you as he's checking you out after the fight, do you have any headaches? Boop, boop, boop. Have you had a headache in your past fight? So they're getting what they call a baseline on these fighters. And he called me today, and he's coming to the Hall of Fame Awards just to meet me, and hopefully we can use this app to get information from fighters. You know, and 2-3 weeks later, they'll send them a text where they'll ask these questions, and you send them out, and then they get the database. So there's people now that are starting to work on trying to make this game a lot better. And you know, I didn't realize, but I've been doing this all my life.
And the catalyst for it too. Well, you know, I definitely, that third question, you really segued into it. I was going to ask you about the well-being after the sport and during the sport within, like you said, benefits and protections, insurances, and things like that for the people who gave their blood, sweat, and tears to the game. But since you covered that, I wanted to ask one last question. And that's, given the fact that you have been there and seen so many different characters, or I should say, what's a better way of saying it? Personalities. Like, what are some of your fondest memories of people in the sport and the way that they like give them their rendition to the sport to make it come alive?
Man, there's been so many moments of, you know, behind the scenes stuff that makes my job idealistic, right? And when I told Vladimir Klitschko, I'm gonna take care of you like you're my son. This started with Lyoto Machida in the UFC when he fought and beat Rashad Evans for the world title. Okay. Well, his father's very Japanese, very shogun-ish. And after the fight, I go in the dressing room because every time Lyoto fought, I would wrap his hands and work his corners. And when he won the world title, I go to the dressing room after the fights and to congratulate him. And he tells me in front of his shogun-ish father, he says, Stitch, he goes, Stitch, in the ring, you are my father, right? And that was a golden moment for me to be accepted for someone that's a gladiator like that. So I understand that's the relationship that we have, that I have with these fighters. It's a respect factor. So, and I gotta
say this, Stitch, man. We love you, man, and you're a great man, but you even got a bigger heart, man. So what you doing? Tell you, man. I don't know if anybody's ever told you, but thank you, man. I appreciate
That's groundbreaking.
Taking care of our favorite sport, man. Because I've been watching boxing since '95. I was one of those kids that got to watch Mike Tyson when he had a little bit left and he bit Evander because he was getting frustrated. So to hear about all you've done to make the sport better, man. Thank you so much, man. We love you.
It's been a blessing, man. And I'll leave it this way. It's why I'm like this. Is I grew up this way. You know, we grew up poor, but you know, we were humble, we're hard workers, and our parents always taught to give back. But I'll close with this is I've been in Vegas 29 years, and before that, I told you I had top of the line kickboxers, but Dennis Alexio fought here in Las Vegas 30-something years ago. And Randall Cunningham at that time, you know, he was a quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles. Well, after the fights, were me and my three brothers, and we're nobody. I'm still Jacob. I'm not even Stitch. We're talking to Randall Cunningham, and this guy comes up and says, Randall, come here, man. Let me introduce you to these guys. He goes, hold on. Let me finish talking to these guys. Bro, I never felt so important in my life. You know, we were nobody. And he's a pastor here in Las Vegas, and I've done this story hundreds of times, and he probably don't even know. But I know, and my brother says, well, you got to just go over there and tell him. I said, no, I'm going to wait for that moment when we meet, when I'm not telling him, you just reinforce that this is the way you want to treat people, you know, and that's always been my nature, man. It's not about the money. It's not about the fame. I've been blessed to do what I do and share what I do, you know, and people say, hey, man, you know, do you mind if we take a picture? I said, no, man, it's when you don't ask that I should be first. You know, I know dummy, bro, you know, so anyway, but I appreciate it, man, and send me your email. I'll send you
do that,
Henry, and yeah, it'll blow your mind on, like I say, it was done on, for the most part, on a very limited limited budget, but the words are golden, and they're golden, and they're all legends. Every one of these guys are legends. Some are already dead. So,
hey, thank you, man. And if you want to know who the greatest cutman of all time is, it's Jacob Stitch Duran. So I appreciate you, man. Take care, my brother.
Appreciate you, Stretch.
all right, my man.
Appreciate you big time, Stitch.
All right, God bless.
All right.
Adios.
Yeah. We really boxing. Who wanted the baddest? Let's see.
Oh, we boxing, yeah, we boxing. I need that belt like it ain't